I can't remember which subscriber it was that sent me this story, but in case you're watching this, thank you for tagging me in this. So, as many of y'all know, or probably don't know, this is Governor LePage, or as I call him, Governor LePiece of Shit of Maine. So, if y'all don't remember, a few months ago, probably at the beginning of the year, or maybe late last year, I forget what time period it was. I had did a video in which he said that most of the drugs that come into Maine are being bought in by black or Hispanic people, and he even gave them nicknames like D Money and Swifty, and I think it was another one. Well, now he has doubled down on his racism and has said that black people are the enemy, says U.S. governor being criticized for his racist remarks. Am I surprised by what he said? No, I am not. I'm going to go ahead and read this article that's coming from the St. Lucia News Online. You can just look at this guy and tell he's a racist. He looks like Penguin from Batman. All he needs is the longer nose, the glass eye, the top hat, the hands, and he probably already eats raw fish because in Maine that's a big fishing area state. Let's see, it says Governor LePage held up mugshots he said showed that most men arrested in Maine on drug charges were black. That's probably just the ones that he has. And I bet you that, it's probably a very short stack. It says the governor of Maine has said that people of color were enemies of his state and appeared to suggest they should be shot. Now notice he went from black people to people of color. I don't know about y'all, but I don't like to lump that black people into that people of color category, because that means that's us, Hispanics, Asians, anybody who's not white. But he said he suggested that they should be shot. Not arrested or anything like that, but shot. But notice the overwhelming heroin not epidemic, because we're not going to call it that, plague is mostly consisted of white people, whether they're doing the drug or if they're dealing the drug. But let's continue. Speaking about Maine's effort to combat drug crime, Paul, LePiece of Shit, said that the enemy right now are people of color or people of Hispanic origin. When you go to war and the enemy dresses in red and you dress in blue, then you shoot at the red, he said. Now that could be seen as dog whistle language, because what did the cops wear? Blue, boys in blue, back to blue, blue lives matter. He said leading Democrats have urged him to resign. He needs to do more than resign. Pensions need to be pulled. Mr. LePiece of Shit made the comments while seeking to clarify remarks he made earlier in the week, which were criticized as racist. The press conference capped a controversial 72 hours for the Republican governor. Wednesday, Mr. LePiece of Shit was asked about a statement he made in January in which he blamed the state's heroin problem on guys by the name D-Money, Smoothie, that was the other one, Smoothie and Shifty, who come from Connecticut and New York. They come up here, they sell the heroin, then they go back home. Incidentally, half the time they impregnate a young white girl before they leave, thus throwing the stereotype that they go around chasing after white women. Now, that sounds like this guy has watched the original version of Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith a few times, because that's basically the premise of that film, as disgusting and tacky as it was and still is. Speaking on Wednesday, he denied it was racist, of course he is, but said that since January he had been putting together a binder cataloging drug arrests in the state, and that 90+% of those pictures in my book, and it's a 3-ring binder, are black and Hispanic people. Asked by reporters to provide the binder, Mr. LePiece of Shit replied, "Let me tell you something. Black people come up the highway and they kill Mainers. You ought to look into that." Like, this guy claims that he's not a racist, but everything that comes out of his mouth is racist. And he's not even trying to hide it. The only thing that he did not say was niggers. At least not in public. He didn't. But he probably thinks that's the only thing that will qualify him to be a racist, is by saying that word. That's how a lot of white people think. They think that they can't be racist unless they say that word. But let me continue. He then stormed off, telling the reporters, "You make me so sick." So he's mad at the reporters because they're doing their job, asking to see this 3-ring binder that he claims to have, that has nothing but black and quote unquote Hispanic faces in it. That means he doesn't have anything. But let me continue because it gets better, because I actually skimmed this article before I decided to record this video. Maine daily newspaper the Portland Press Herald has reportedly filed a Freedom of Information request for the governor's binder. Thursday, a reporter appeared to suggest Mr. LePage that Democratic State Representative Drew Gattin had called him a racist. Mr. LePage called Mr. Gattin, and when he was unable to reach him, left him an abusive, expletive Latin voice message. The recording was released by the Portland Press Herald. He later invited reporters from the Press Herald and WMTW TV channel to an interview to explain the voice message and told them he wished he could shoot Mr. Gattin in a duel. "I'd like him to come up here because, tell you right now, I wish it were 1825. So it sounds like this guy, he's a thug. Now this is your thug right here. Now he's wishing that he could shoot somebody just because they requested something from him. It doesn't take much to trigger this guy. Now, what's interesting is this is the same guy that claims that, or he said that he adopted some black kid, and I think he did, but whatever. And the fact that that even happening, I hope that black kid has found a way to be from up under this guy or his family. Like, they need to get far away from him as soon as possible. He said, "And we would have a duel." Who talks like that anymore? "That's how angry I am, and I would not put my gun in the air, I guarantee you. I would point it right between his eyes because he is a snot-nosed little runt, and he has not done a damn thing since he's been in the legislature to help move the state forward." Rights group, the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, said it had filed a Freedom of Information request for records related to the arrest of black and Hispanic people in the state. Its executive director, Allison Beyer, said Maine police were 9 times more likely to arrest people of color for selling drugs than white people, even though white people were just as likely to commit drug offenses. Well, that's an establishment thing, because that's how it is all over the U.S. Friday, the Portland Press Herald published FBI statistics which show that 1,211 people were arrested on charges of drug sales or manufacturing in Maine in 2014. Of those 170, 14.1% were black, and almost all the rest were white. So that means 86%, or around that ballpark, 85.5, whatever you want to say, were Caucasian. I have a feeling that his so-called binder, he probably made some copies of, or he probably found some pictures of black people that may live in the state and just threw them in there. But because he's not showing it, I highly doubt that binder even holds up to what he claims. At a State House press conference, Mr. LePage said he was enormously angry, no, he's just enormous, at being called a racist, and restated his earlier remarks, which cast Maine's drug problem in racial terms. He said, "When you go to war, if you know the enemy and the enemy dresses in red, you dress in blue, then you shoot at the red." He added, "You shoot at the enemy, you try to identify the enemy, and the enemy right now is the overwhelming majority of people coming in are people of color, of people of Hispanic origin. Leading Democrat figures are now calling for the governor to step down. I would suggest they push him down, but that might take the jaws of life to actually do that, considering he's like the size of a boulder." Representative Sarah Gideon of Freeport, the Assistant House Democratic leader, said, "We strongly and regretfully feel that he is unfit to serve as governor of the state of Maine right now. More like ever. We have real concerns and reservations about how we move forward together as lawmakers as well as Maine people." Now, I did a little bit of research about Maine's black population, and they said that of all 1.3 million people who live in Maine, only 0.8% of those residents are black. That's less than 1%. And he expects me to believe that all these black people have come from New York and Connecticut with names like Shifty, Smoothie, and D Money to deal drugs and screw white women. Do I have stupid stamped across my forehead? Am I wearing a dunce cap? Does he really expect someone like myself and to the people viewing to believe what he's saying? The guy is as racist as they come, and he claims that he's not a racist, but he is. It's all laid right out right here for you in this article. Like like I said, this doesn't even make me mad. I'm not surprised. It actually made me chuckle a little bit at the lengths that someone like himself will go. And see, the thing is, he has to be removed by, I believe, the mayor. I think that's the only way that a governor steps down. Y'all let me know, because I don't think they can be simply voted out. I'm not sure exactly how that is with it being the governor. Well, actually, I take that back. I think he can be voted out. But this is Maine we're talking about here. Like, he just has an innate hatred of black people, especially black men. And you know what? When it comes to races, I'm convinced something probably happened in their past. Something so minuscule, so small, and so petty that they felt they got wrong or done wrong by a black person. That was probably something out of a black person's control. Like, maybe a black person could have beat them in a competition, or a black person could have got a job over them, or in some cases, a black person might have, I don't know, stole their woman. And probably didn't mean to steal them, but it just kind of happened. It could be any one of those things plus a whole lot more. And it triggers them, and it stays with them for the rest of their life. And they just take whatever stereotype they can and try to tack it on us. Most of the drug dealers are the ones who's dealing the heroin and the opioids and everything like that aren't even black. Notice he does not go after the pharmaceutical companies, because they will shut his ass down in an instant. They have enough money to do so, and more power than he will ever have. So he goes for the obvious stereotype, which is black men. And this so-called picture that he's holding up that has black faces in it, whatever, just a fluff piece, in my opinion. Y'all let me know what you think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. The links to the article and contact information will be in the description, and the links to the shirt will be pinned down below. I'll talk to you in the next one.